When my kids were little, I set up a sort of a ropes course in this leaning oak tree. The oak tree is probably 20 feet off the ground. A fall could hurt him quite badly, but I don't think it would kill him. And I set up this ropes course up here with all kinds of ropes tied into the tree, and they're still there. After 20 years, they're still up there. And the kids, I'm sure they're old and not safe right now, but the kids used to go up there and climb all through the tree, including way out on this limb that didn't have any ropes on it. So they built their confidence in climbing because of those ropes. But having those ropes to hang on made them feel a lot more confident. Now here's something I find quite perplexing, and I don't understand this, but do you see this vine here? It's growing straight up out of the ground with nothing to climb on, and it made its way all the way up into this tree, and it's starting to fill up that whole back section of the tree. It's a poison oak vine, but how did it get up there? There's another one over there that goes all the way up, and it's into that other tree, that madrone tree over there. I mean, there's no trees around here. Nothing fell down, but these vines, somehow, they work themselves skyward and attach themselves. I mean, that's clearly 25 feet off the ground. How did that happen? Got a fairly large group of dead tan oaks over here, and they're quite tall. They're at least 100 feet tall. And this one over here, which is hard to tell, but it's a significant tree, it finally gave up and fell down and crashed into this madrone tree over here and broke this madrone all the way back to here. I don't know if there's any life in it left or not. I don't think so. But sometimes I think I need to go out in the forest and make some directional felling cuts on these things, but everywhere you look, anywhere you look, these trees are going to fall and wipe out other trees. My hopes was that they would kind of fall apart like that one did, where they kind of self-destruct and come down one piece at a time. And I guess it all depends upon how infested they become with the ambrosia beetle, which is an insect that tunnels all the way through, and fungus develops, and that's part of the reason these trees fail so quickly. They usually only stand up for 2 or 3, sometimes 4 years before they completely self-destruct. There's a dead madrone tree. Good firewood. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 dead tan oaks here. And there's a forest of living tan oaks. Oh, there's a dead one. 12, there's another dead one. 13. So just in this small area on my property, I've got 13 dead standing tan oaks right here. A couple of dead madrones. And I go into this area, I've got a whole bunch of tan oaks in different stages of decline. One right there is completely dead. That one right there is completely dead. Another one, another one, another one, another one. So in this short walk, another one, I've counted at least 25 dead tan oaks. Now the sad part about this is 20 years ago, when I first moved up here, there weren't any dead tan oaks. We've lost probably 100 or more so far. And I'd say there's at least 100 dead and probably another 100 dying. Sad, because they're really nice trees and they should live to be a really long, long time. I've counted the rings on some of these big guys when we've taken them down when they're still healthy. And a tree like this one right here can be 150 years old. That's kind of interesting. That's snow damage. That was a complete healthy tan oak. You can see all the leaves are still on it. And it broke the top somewheres up there. Came down and caught up into the trees. Here's two reasonably healthy looking tan oaks. Let's go look at the base of some of these trees and see what we can see. These look pretty good. I'm going to show a little bit of damage at the base. And right next to it is another big 10, big one, big one. When you look around, let's do a wide angle. When you look around, the forest looks pretty green and pretty full, and you think this is a healthy forest. But there's a plague running through this forest, and it scares me. And we've got the largest tan oak that I've seen on this property. Trunk diameter down here is about 38 inches in diameter. And it's still got some green foliage on it, but you can tell it's declining. It was damaged a long time ago by something that came down the hill. I'm guessing, this is kind of interesting, I'm guessing that that was impacted by a car that was pushed down the hill. From way up there, it came crash, 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 hit this tree solid, flipped around. Let me see if I can show you the car. This old car has been up here as long as I've been up on this property. I went down and looked at it, and I think I was able to deduce that it was a 1950 something, early 50s Oldsmobile. I forget what it was that I found. Maybe it was a hubcap or something. But for all I know, there might be a skeleton in that old car. And there's another visual of that tree. I'm going to show you the base of it one more time. This is also interesting. If you look at the front of this tree right here, it looks like it was struck by something as well. And if you look at the trajectory of this wound down to that wound, the car might have hit right there, slammed up against that tree, flipped over, and went down over the hill over there. And this is what I see on the trunk of this tree. It is riddled with fungus all the way up, but not up there. So a percentage of the trunk is in bad shape. Yep. So this is a tree that I'm going to have to take down, because if it falls down on its own, it's going to take out this lovely grove of madrones that I really like. Oh, huge job. I wonder if I can get a chipper down here. Maybe with my Bobcat. Because if I can get a chipper stationed right here, we can just shoot the chips off into the woods and tape that double top monster down. You look at it like this, you can appreciate just how big it is. I'm guessing about 85 feet. It's not near as tall as those down the hill. It's just got a massive amount of foliage up there. Hard wood too. I love my garden. I love the flowers. I love the color. And it is so alive right now. It's nearing the end of August, and I have so many flowers coming up, so much life. It's just It's an overgrown garden, but I really love it that way. I threw a bunch of sunflower seeds in the ground. There's a Euryops, I like those. There's a butterfly bush. I dug that up from a client's yard and it grew. Those are naked ladies. They're from bulbs. They come up everywhere. And mint, even the mint is flowering. That's a hollyhock. And there's a close-up of the hollyhock. I put those in the ground for seeds. Those are 4 o'clocks, and they come in many different colors, including the yellow. And as I said, my garden is a wild garden. I just put stuff in. That's a memorial tree that I planted years ago for a young man who passed away. He was a friend of my kids, and I was a friend of the family's. I love all the different artifacts I've got in my garden as well. That's an old plow. Can only imagine the horse that pulled that plow so many years ago. My wife wonders about it, but I think it's really cool. There's a pine that I planted in there when I first bought the property. It was only in a 1-gallon can, and now it's about 20 feet tall. Madrones. They come up wild all over the property. We've got big madrones. We've got wild ones everywhere. That's a cut leaf red Japanese maple. Lots and lots of rocks. I brought in a whole bunch of rocks. A friend of mine owned a rockery just outside of Yosemite, and I bought a few truckloads and we placed them all with my crane back when I owned a crane. And I built this rock garden, sort of creek bed, and at one time I had it all operating, but sadly it turned into such a nightmare to keep it working. You know, the number of acorns and leaves and stuff that kept falling in it clogged it up, and it became more work than it was worth, sadly. But it was beautiful when it was working. There's a madrone that's coming up. That tree is only about 12 to 15 years old. I remember when it just got started. And we've got some huge madrones on the property as well. There's a pine that I planted when we first moved up here. It's now about 25, maybe 30 feet tall. Lots and lots of rhododendrons. We got a lot of rhododendrons on the property too. One time I had a little pond up here and the ivy ate it. There we go, some big madrones. We got some ancient madrones, some really, really tall ones. Matter of fact, further down the property, I've got the grandfather of all grandfather madrones. It is just an incredible, just magnificent tree. There's a young madrone that just came up a few years ago. I've been watching that one grow. There's some bigger ones in the back of my property. These are all naturalized. We have 20 acres up here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and I love the forest. This one just came up a couple of years ago, and I've been watching it. So this is about 3 years old now. So I'm guessing that these young madrones come up at a rate of about 8 to 10 inches per year, which gives you a better idea of how slow they can grow. Maybe they grow a little bit faster once they get more foliage. There's a grove of madrones there. And I have a lot of work areas on my property. Here's where I've been stockpiling logs. I've got the equipment for the Bobcat. This is my firewood area. I've got so much firewood from my jobs, and I sort it by different species. And I've got some big, big trees that I've got to cut down. This tan oak here, this is the biggest tan oak on the property. It's, video just doesn't do it justice. I got to cut it down. It's dying. There's an area that I'd love to put a small cabin, and there's another area I'd like to put a small cabin, like a 10 by 10 camping cabin for friends, or maybe rent it out on Hip Camp or something like that. This is a view down into the tan oak forest. I have probably 1,000 tan oaks on this property, and sadly I've lost several hundred of them to the Phytophthora ramorum, which is also known as sudden oak death. I've put in a lot of trails on the property as well. I own a Bobcat. It's a T190, and I like to make much of my property accessible. There's my Bobcat. I love this machine. I've been able to do so much with it over the years. Use it on many, many job sites. I've also got an old 743 Bobcat, which I've been working on rebuilding it, but it's still not operating correctly. Someday. We did a full-on, complete diesel rebuild. Took it out and redid the cylinders and put new pistons and rebuilt all the components on it, so hopefully it'll be a good running machine. Poison oak. It's growing in huge vines in many of the trees. As I said, I've cut a lot of trails, and this is coming back up closer to my home. There's my house down there and my wood shop, and I've got quite a view. We're looking out over Silicon Valley, and we can see much of San Jose and Cupertino, and all the way across we can see a lot of the South Bay, which is part of the San Francisco Bay. And this is my front area looking down. Oh my goodness, look at the ivy on that tree. You know, so many birds nest in there that I think I should keep it. I kind of like it. And more of my property. There's an old pump that I found on a house that was being demolished. There's a close-up of that plow. I'm not sure if this was actually towed by horses. I think it could have been. You can see where there was a seat on the back of it. And this is, oh, I've got chickens on my property. Let's go on down. It's early in the morning here. I'm actually walking around at 7 o'clock in the morning in my robe doing this little video here. There's my chicken area. I have to keep them contained in an area because we have so many critters that take them out. The raccoons, the coyotes, the foxes, everybody wants my chickens. So I've got 6 chickens. I've raised them all up since they were little tiny chicks. And I've got an assortment of different types of chickens in there. I've got 1 old one and 5 newer ones. This is a little area that I built down here. All those pavers down there came from a job site. I did a trade with a guy that didn't want them. They're solid stone. They're 3 by 3, very, very heavy. And there's my deck area. We put a lot of garden flowers up there. And this is the view that we have overlooking the Silicon Valley. Look at that bright light out there. That bright light is a reflection of the sun shining down on the big screen at the 49ers stadium, Levi's Stadium. So when they have games and we get our telescope out, we can actually see what the game is going, what they've got on the screen from our house. And that circle area down there, that is, everybody knows what that is? That's the Apple complex.